The god of death never wept, not once, not in eternity. But when this man played a single song about the woman he lost, Hades wept. And then he did something he had never done before. Let me tell you this story. Ancient Thrace, the wild north of Greece, where the mountains drop straight into the Aegean Sea, and the wind off the water can strip the leaves of an olive tree in half a day. This was hard country, shepherds, soldiers, winters that sent men indoors for months. In that country, there lived a musician named Orpheus. Now, when I say musician, I need you to forget what that word means. Orpheus was the son of Apollo, the god of light, of truth, of music itself, and the muse Calliope. Music wasn't something he learned, it was something he was. And when he played his harp, the world responded. Trees uprooted themselves and moved closer. Rivers slowed mid-current to listen. Wolves lay down beside rabbits. Stones rolled uphill. The Greeks weren't being poetic when they said this. They meant it. His music bent the physical laws of the world. That was the kind of gift he carried. But here's the other thing about Orpheus. He didn't play for crowds. He played because something in him needed to. The way some people can't stop talking, Orpheus couldn't stop playing. Silence made him restless, like the world without music was incomplete, and only his hands could finish it. Then he met Eurydice. She was a wood nymph, a spirit of the wild places, the oak groves and meadow grass. She didn't care about his fame. What drew her was the silence between his songs, the way he stopped playing sometimes, tilted his head, and listened to the wind, as if the wind had something to teach him that the harp couldn't. They married, and on their wedding day, while their guests were still singing and the wine was still being poured, Eurydice walked through a meadow near the ceremony. A viper lay coiled in the grass. She stepped too close. It struck her ankle. Orpheus reached her as she fell. She died in his arms, while their wedding garlands were still fresh. For days he didn't play, didn't speak, didn't eat. The silence that settled over Thrace was louder than anything his harp had ever produced. People said you could feel it in the trees, the branches bending low as if they were listening for him. And then he picked up his harp and walked south, towards Taenarus, the cave in the southern tip of Greece that the Greeks believed led to the land of the dead. He was going to get her back. Now, every culture has a version of the underworld, a place below, a place where the dead go and the living don't follow. But to the Greeks, the underworld wasn't just dangerous, it was governed. Hades ruled it. Persephone sat beside him, the Furies enforced its laws. Charon ferried the dead across the river Styx and refused the living. Cerberus, a three-headed, shadow-coated dog, guarded the gate. No living person was meant to be there, and the few heroes who had come, Hercules, Theseus, came with weapons, with strength, with divine backing. They came to take something by force. Orpheus came with a harp. He reached the river Styx. Charon, the ferryman, old as death itself, looked at him and refused. No pulse, no passage. That was the rule. Orpheus played. Charon rode. He reached the gate. Cerberus, the beast that had never been calmed, never been soothed, never been anything but teeth and fury, lowered all three heads to the ground. Orpheus kept walking, past the fields of asphodel, where the ordinary dead wandered in gray silence, past the shades who stopped their wandering and turned, drawn by the sound, past Tantalus, who forgot his thirst, past Sisyphus, who sat down on his boulder for the first time in eternity. And then he stood before the throne, Hades and Persephone, the king and queen of the dead, the two beings who had heard every plea, every bargain, every desperate prayer from every soul that had ever died, and had never, not once, changed their minds. Orpheus didn't beg, didn't argue, didn't negotiate. He played. He played a song about Eurydice, about the meadow, about the snake, about the way she tilted her head when she listened to him, like she could hear something underneath the music that no one else could reach, about the silence in their house now, about the way her absence had a shape, and it was the shape of every room, every doorway, every morning. The Furies, whose entire existence was punishment, whose tears had dried 1,000 ages ago. The Furies wept, and Hades wept. The god who had never felt pity, the god who presided over every death that had ever occurred and had not flinched. He wept. If that doesn't hit you, I don't know what will. And if you're not subscribed, come on, you're already here. Hit subscribe with all notifications on so you don't miss these stories. Then Hades spoke, and what he said was this: "You may take her, walk toward the light. She will follow behind you, but you must not look back at her until you are both standing in the world of the living. If you look back, she returns to me forever." Orpheus agreed. He turned toward the passage and began to walk. He climbed. The path was narrow and dark, stone walls close enough to brush his shoulders. The air was cold and carried the mineral smell of deep earth. Behind him, he could hear something. Footsteps, faint, the soft press of feet on stone. He played as he walked, not the song he'd played for Hades, something quieter, a melody meant for one person. Something to let her know, "I'm here, I haven't left." And he listened. Sometimes the footsteps were clear, other times they faded. The passage twisted, rose, leveled off, rose again. He couldn't see behind him. He couldn't call out to her. Hades hadn't said she couldn't speak, and the silence from behind him was terrible. Then the footsteps stopped. He froze. His fingers went still on the strings. His chin lifted, half a turn, maybe less. His whole body pulled toward her like iron toward a lodestone. He caught himself. He played again, and after what felt like hours, a sound. The soft press of a foot on stone. She was still there. Was she? What if Hades had lied? What if she had faded 3 steps into the walk and he climbed alone through dead stone, playing a love song to no one? What would you do? Walking through darkness, the person you love most is supposedly right behind you, but you have no proof. You have nothing but a promise from a god of the dead, a god who built his entire kingdom on the fact that dead stay dead. And the light begins to appear. Far above, a pale circle, daylight, the living. He climbs faster. The air warms. He can smell grass. He can hear wind. The circle grows. He steps into the light. And before his second foot crosses the threshold, he turns. She is there, right there, close enough to touch. Her face, her eyes, the way she tilted her head. And then she isn't. She's pulled backward, not violently, gently, like smoke drawn back into a room, like a tide receding from shore. She reaches for him. He reaches for her. Her mouth opens, one word: farewell. And she is gone. He tried to go back. Charon refused him. The same harp, the same hands, but the door was closed. You only get one miracle, and he had already used his. He sat at the mouth of the cave for 7 days. No food, no water, no music. Just the man who had made the god of death weep, sitting in the dirt, staring into the dark where she had vanished. And then he walked back into the world, and for the rest of his life, he played only songs of grief. He refused the company of any woman. He sat on hillsides in Thrace, playing the same melodies to the wind and the stones and the wolves who came to listen, until the Maenads found him. The Maenads, followers of Dionysus, a woman in a state of holy frenzy. They wanted him. He refused. They threw stones, but the stones wouldn't touch him while he played. They curved away, drawn by the music, falling at his feet like offerings. So the women screamed louder than his harp, and in the silence, they tore him apart. His severed head floated down the river Hebrus, and it was still singing her name. They say his harp drifted into the island of Lesbos, and the nightingales there sing sweeter than anywhere else in the world. And somewhere beneath the earth, in the place where the rules no longer applied, Orpheus found Eurydice again. And this time, he could look at her as long as he wanted. If you know someone who would understand that kind of devotion or that kind of doubt, share this video with them. They will love this story. The story on your screen right now: a man in ancient China fell in love with a woman, then sent his soul out of his body to find her. What happened next, I still can't fully explain. Click on this thumbnail right now and watch it, and I'll see you in the next story.